Wait,
Well,
before
Beau Bridges, you've been very, very active this past TV season.
little housekeeping. Okay. Go ahead.
We've been watching you on 2 different programs this past TV season. You've had your regular role on The Millers on CBS and your guest starring role on Masters of Sex. I guess I want to start out with, I've always noticed something about you in your acting career. You're one of those few actors that I can really totally believe when you're playing dumb, like you do often on The Millers, and then when you're playing really, really smart, like you do on Masters. What's the trick in that for you as an actor?
Well, maybe the truth is that I'm a little dumb and sometimes I'm a little smart. So I've got both those things happening inside me, like most of us are a combination of the two. In The Millers, my dumbness definitely shines. This guy bumps into a lot of walls. However, what I find kind of interesting developing a character in a series is you get to see him in an arc, and you see him involve the characters. And sometimes they involve in front of our eyes the actors because we don't know what's going to happen from one episode to the next. And for instance, with my character Tom in The Millers, recently revealed that he was an engineer before he retired, and that kind of surprised me. I thought, geez, I thought the guy was not too smart, but apparently he is. And so there are surprises along the way. And then with Masters of Sex, the man is the provost of a major university, so he obviously has some intelligence going there. But the poor guy gets wrapped up in a really awful conundrum, and is a closeted gay man in the late 1950s, which was a tough time to be gay in this country. Unfortunately, some of the ignorance still prevails even today, but back in those days, I mean, police were breaking into bars, arresting gay folks, and it was not a good thing.
Well, let's talk about that one first. Did you know that when you took on the role, or was it something that was revealed to you later on as you got the scripts?
No, actually, in the pilot, I was the provost of the university where these sexual experiments were being done by William Masters and his assistant Johnson, Virginia Johnson, and those are true characters. So it's basically a true story with a few dramatic interludes there, but mostly it's true. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm the provost of the university. I'm not really happy with the sexual experiments going on because I think they're going to reflect badly on the university. I'm also mentoring William Masters, and I thought that was going to be sort of the main pull for my character. Seemed an interesting one. Then they had a Christmas party, the executives, where they invited the cast. We had been informed that we were picked up for the first season, and I was very excited about that because it's I think, a wonderfully written show. And I went there with my wife, and they said, we're so happy that you're coming in, and they were kind of stroking me, telling me that I did such a great job in the pilot and everything. And my wife, I was getting a little puffed up, and my wife said she saw it coming. And I said, well, I'm so happy. And they said, yeah, we have a really interesting twist for your character as the season progresses. And I kind of thought, where my head went was, oh, he's the provost of a major university. There's all these sexual things happening to all the main characters. Probably I'm going to be getting it on with some of the young ladies that are attending the college, and I think my wife kind of read my mind, and she's smiling, and I said, wow, really, what's the twist? They said, you're gay. And so I found that quite surprising, and I was not ready for that. My wife laughed a little bit because she knew where my head was going. And it's a first for me. I've never played a gay man. I've played a person who had the operation and changed from a man to a woman. I've done that a couple of times, and that was very interesting, getting into that whole phenomenon, which is, as I'm sure you probably know, is a real tough challenge for anyone who wants to make that decision, both physically and emotionally and every which way. And I talked to a lot of the people that had that operation, and I ended up really respecting their perseverance and their toughness for taking on that challenge. Because, you know, in the end, we all want to be who we truthfully are. And that's what's good about this this role, is I get to represent a gay man who is closeted because he's afraid to come out. He's got a real responsible, powerful position. And back in the 50s, you know, being gay was not something that was desirable by the establishment. And he's afraid to come out, even to his wife. He's married, he has a child. So he is all twisted up, and he can't be who he wants to be. And that's sort of the arc for my character. And I'm glad I have that opportunity, because I have friends who are gay who even today have certain problems of being who they are. It's getting better, but it's not the way it should be.
Well, the main two people you work with on the show, let's talk about both of them. Michael Sheen plays Dr. Masters, and toward the end of the season, you've really stuck up for him all along the way, but you really get infuriated with how far he's taking this research toward the end of the season.
Yeah, and Masters is a very interesting character, because he's kind of all over the map in terms of his own path and his own life and his choices. Except there's one consistent thing, which is that he wants to re-examine human sexuality, and for all of us. And I remember it very distinctly back in the day. I grew up, I was like a teenager in my late teens when he was doing these experiments in the 50s. And it really turned us all upside down, especially as it represented women. In those days, women were kind of, I think most of us thought they were sort of along for the ride sexually. And Masters, through his experiments, said, well, as a matter of fact, they're driving the bus, so you men better get with the program. And that was a real wake-up call for not only myself, but, you know, I think most men. So Masters, he's scaring me, because I have been mentoring him. I know how intelligent he is, but, you know, to pull off these, you know, these sexual experiments right in the university, it could bring down the university if it gets out, and it's very concerning to me. But then he then goes farther and almost blackmails me to get what he wants from me by telling me that he knows I'm gay. He discovers it, and that becomes very upsetting. But I think our relationship is going to, you know, progress in some really interesting ways that people, the audience, hopefully will enjoy this next season. I've already completed the first episode of the next season. And
I was wondering if you would be back, because the way things are left at the end, we don't know.
Yeah, well, I come back pretty strong in the first episode. It's a scary one for my character, and he you know, he's up against it. I don't want to give away too much, and then I go away for a while, but I'll be back, you know, toward the end of this season or the next season.
And Allison Janney, that's such a great acting combo with Beau Bridges and Allison Janney as husband and wife. I really, even early on, I liked it, but boy, toward the end of the season, you two really go at it.
Yeah, she's such a wonderful actress. I'd never worked with her before, but I was, of course, aware of her, and, you know, just love playing the scenes with her. She's an exciting performer to work with. And Michael Sheen, who is our quarterback, you know, so to speak, he's great. He just carries the whole thing. And Lizzie Kaplan, of course, is wonderful. The whole cast, Caitlin Fitzgerald. And the young man who played my love interest, Finn Wittrock, I found him a great actor. And because it was new territory for me, I was kind of worried and a little uptight going into some of those scenes. But because of Finn's you know, his understanding and his sensitivity helped me to relax and not be uptight about those scenes. And I found him a great actor.
Well, that's really interesting because you've been doing this a while, and to hear somebody like yourself, you know, some actors at some stage, anybody in any walk of life, after you've been doing it a while, you may think, well, there's nothing else I can learn. But it sounds like you really, as an actor, really enjoy continuing to evolve and learn as well.
I do, and you know, it's sort of a roll of the dice. You never know when you're going to be hit with a real challenge, and it just so happened that this last year, Masters of Sex, because of the character I was portraying, was a real challenge. And then with the Millers, the CBS comedy, Total Balls Out comedy, that one was new territory for me because it's a multi-camera live performance show, and I'd only done one of those, and as a just a guest star, and this was really something. I mean, it took me a while to get used to it. We have Jimmy Burrows as our director, and he's one of the best. He did Cheers. He did some of the other ones. He did Cheers, Friends. I mean, he's
Will and
like
Grace.
Will and Grace, and I had done a Will and Grace guest starring performance that he directed. So that was my introduction. That was about 45 years ago. But he was, you know, holding my hand all through the first ones, and it's challenging because you're basically putting on a new play every week, and I never feel totally prepared, which I like to be. I feel like I could use another day or two each time, and then when we get into performing it, we're constantly being given new lines because there's a live audience there. And if a joke doesn't work or something, they'll give you a new one right on the spot that you have to, you know, get to memory and do it. And that made me very nervous. But then I found out that the audience, the live audience, kind of enjoys more when we screw up than when we get it right. They laugh and they enjoy it. So it becomes more and more kind of a relaxed experience. And I ended up having a ball. You know, we did 22 of them so far. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to work on the Millers in a couple of months.
Well, it's been one of the top-rated news shows of any network of any type this past season. And James Burrows, I think, in my opinion, is the best director of television in the history of television. I can't even imagine what it's like for you to learn from somebody like that since you haven't done that much before.
Yeah, well, because he's got this incredible confidence and he's been there, done that. All the actors, we just sort of, you know, we're like putty in his hands. You know, it's like when he says something, even though you may not agree or it may seem like a weird choice, I just go with it because of who he is. And you know, he's got this incredible track record. He's a man of very few words, and I like that. You know, there's a kind of lean and mean approach to making these stories, and I can't imagine being in there with anyone else. And he is going to direct a bunch of them next year too, which we just found out. And then of course Greg Garcia, who is the showrunner, is one of the best in television. I did My Name is Earl with him. I played Earl's dad, so that's when I got to know Greg. And Raising Hope, you know, he's a wonderful writer, and he's got a great team of 9 other writers.
We'll talk about another great acting combo. I mean, everybody on that show is great, but when you and Margot Martindale get going at it, that is a lot of fun to watch. We've interviewed her a couple of times over the year, Justified, and also for the August Osage County, and she's just a ball to talk to as well. And she was talking about working with you when we interviewed her back around Thanksgiving, and said how much fun that was. What's it like for you working with her?
Yeah, you know, they're such interesting characters. You've got these 2 people who've been married for 43 years. They come to visit their son they live in Florida, and he tells them immediately he's getting a divorce. And I ask him why. He said, because I want to have fun. And then I said, well, I want to have fun too. So I leave my wife of 43 years and I move in with our daughter, and she moves in with my son, and then of course we wreak havoc on their lives. But I think it's hysterically funny, and she's got, you know, a real funny bone. But what's interesting is both of us have worked a lot in the dramatic area too. I mean, Justified. I think the Americans she was in, and Osage County. She can really handle the dramatic stuff, but she's a very funny lady. I'm telling you, she cracks me up. Sometimes it's hard for me to, do it with her because she's making me laugh. And then Allison Janney, and we were talking about Allison. Allison, she's doing Masters of Sex, and then she's doing Mom, which is a comedy.
Right.
So I think for all three of us actors, it's been fun to be able to switch it up like that.
What I can't imagine for you is there's a very good possibility both Allison for Mom and Margot for The Millers are going to be up against each other at the Emmys this summer. Who would you root for?
Who would I what?
Who would you root for if those two ladies are up against each other?
I can't go there.
I was kidding. I knew you wouldn't want to give an answer, but I had to see your reaction.
I'd be rooting for both of them. They're incredible ladies, and they're actually friends. They know each other, so they probably be each other too.
Well, they've both been good stage actresses too, as you have as well.
Yes, they have.
Well, speaking of Emmys, you're a 3-time winner, 14 nominations in your career. All 3 of your wins were for TV movies. Tell us about that first one, though, the James Brady story. I remember your father and mother being in the audience. What was the thrill like being able to share a night like that with them?
Oh, it was hugely thrilling. I mean, my dad, Lloyd, wonderful actor for so many years, he got a nomination once, and for me to be nominated was very exciting. And then to win it in front of my family, my wife Wendy was there, my mom and dad, and it was wonderful. And also for a role that I thought was an important one in terms of sharing information and getting a discussion going, because Jim Brady, a wonderful man, I just visited him actually a couple of weeks ago, he and his wife Sarah, in Virginia, and an incredible man. And for him, to get shot in front of the president, and was lucky the president wasn't hurt even more than he was, although President Reagan was in much dire straits than most people realized. And then to have this intense brain injury and to come back, that's a tough road to hoe. I did a lot of research visiting people who had brain injuries, and there's tremendous anger involved there, and just the physical aspects of having to relearn everything. And Jim did it and has lived a very full life, and I respect the man greatly. And then his wife Sarah, who after Jim was shot, gave most of her life experience has been trying to help people realize that we need to take a look at the proliferation of weapons here in this country, and to try to approach that fact with some sense of intelligence, so that realizing that it's a great responsibility to own a weapon. It's like maybe more so than driving a car. And when you go to get your license, you have to go through a few things to get it. And Sarah thinks, and I agree, that should be the same thing with weapons. And it's not like trying to do away with them, because we all understand the need for weapons, I think. I mean, I went hunting with my grandfather, so I understand the bonding that happens between a father and a son. I was in the military, in the Coast Guard, and I used weapons there and learned to respect them. But we just need to look at it with a little more intelligence than we are now. And every time you pick up the paper, someone else has got a gun and shouldn't have one, and causing all kinds of terror and tragedy.
Well, you had a great run there in the 90s at the Emmys. You win 3 Emmys in a 5-year period. That third time, I mean, what's going through your mind? Is it like, hey, this is an incredible run here?
Yeah, I'm taking the third one. I think was the Second Civil War, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah, and the other one I won was for, and I can never remember the entire title of this thing, but I think it's what is it? The alleged.
I just call it Positively True Adventures, and don't get into all the rest of that.
Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Murdering Mom, or something like that.
Right.
And the fact is that all 3 of those shows, I think the show itself was quite excellent, and there was something very unique about all of them. And so I was, along for the ride. I was one of the actors that was in there, and I had a great opportunity. But I think it's always the play is the thing, like Shakespeare said a long time ago. If you got the words to say, and you've got a strong director in there, then people will respond to it. And yeah, I think I was really fortunate to get those 3 nods.
And of all things, as an actor, here you are. You've got a Grammy on your shelf there, with mostly it's musicians that win Grammys, but you and Cynthia Nixon and Blair Underwood read the audio version of Al Gore's book and win a Grammy Award.
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed over the past years. I've done a lot of narration and reading books on tape and that sort of thing, and I really like it. It's a whole different ball game. It frees you up. You don't have to worry about how you look and what's happening there. It's just all representing the story with your voice, and I like that a lot. I really do, and I get kind of a kick out of it because you usually do associate a Grammy with a musical award, and here I was telling a story, but it was a good one. Again, the story is the thing.
Absolutely. I want to ask you, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming you're probably an Oscar voter. Is that correct? Are you a Film Academy member?
Yes, I am.
I figured you were. As we've had different Academy members on the past couple of years, I love asking this question because I just love getting a response. And you, especially being a long-time working actor, when you're voting, you're nominating, you're voting for winners, what kinds of things are you looking for? What kinds of performances would get a Beau Bridges vote?
Well, a lot of it is the challenge of the role. I think if you can't imagine anyone else performing that role and the person just nails it. I mean, like this last year, I thought Judi Dench in Philomena was just amazing, that performance, and I think that was hands down the best performance by a woman, and there was a lot of great ones. But that's kind of what I look for, and I can't help but be affected by the movie itself, the whole movie. I mean, if a performance is really great, you kind of forget about the performance, don't you? You get sucked into the story, and so it has to be a really powerful movie, I think. Like in my estimation, Philomena was a real powerful movie, and sucked me in.
Yeah, that was such a challenge with that kind of movie, to basically a talkative kind of movie, to make that intriguing on screen.
Exactly, yeah. But it was about the real human condition, and sometimes that is the hardest thing to get right because you're working in subtleties. But I thought it was tremendous. And another one I really liked was The Book Thief. That movie was sensational. Jeffrey Rush, right? I mean, he was just great in that. And the young lady that portrayed the leading role, I can't remember her name now, but she was just amazing. Those are my 2 favorite movies of the year.
What's it like for you as a brother when Jeff has been nominated before? Is that just an incredible thrill for you to be able to check his name on a ballot?
Sure, because I taught him everything that he knows. No, I'm just saying that. I like to pull on my brother every once in a while. He's my best friend. I love him. We spent a lot of time together. In fact, I was just with him up in Montana on his ranch and had a great time. What I'm enjoying so much about his career right now is his music, because when he was a young guy, I gave him my old Dan Electro guitar, which was just a garage guitar, that I learned EAB7 on when I was a kid, and then I got into organized sports, and Jeff took over the guitar, and he became really pretty good right away. So as a young man, I thought that's what he was going to do, that he was going to get into music. In fact, Quincy Jones was a buddy of mine way back in the day, and Quincy, he had written the music for a movie I did, and he says, look, why don't you come into the studio and we'll just mess around with some singing and stuff, because if the movie hits, maybe we can put an album out and it'll be successful. And I said, Quincy, I don't really sing. He says, please do it and bring someone to play the guitar with you, because I know you can't play and sing at the same time. So I brought my little brother Jeff, who was probably about 19 or 20 at the time. And after we did our little session, I asked Quincy, I said, why don't you listen to Jeff? He's been writing some tunes, Quincy said, sure. And right there on the spot, he bought one of Jeff's tunes and he put it in a movie he was putting music to with Dustin Hoffman, called John and Mary, I think it was. And I thought, wow, my brother's going to be a rock star, And then his first movie as an actor, The Last Picture Show, he was nominated for an Academy Award. I kind of put his music stuff in the background, which I wasn't really happy about, because I think he's a tremendous musician. But then later on, with the Baker Boys, which we both did, he got into his music a bit there. And then with Crazy Heart, and that was all about a musician. And since then, he's touring with his band, the Abiders, and he's probably got a gold lame jumpsuit somewhere in his closet right now.
How appropriate was it that he won his Oscar for a role where he gets to do music then, since that's how he got his start?
Yeah, it was just perfect. No, I love seeing him, really get what he deserves out of life and out of his career. He's a real hard-working guy. He likes to take chances. I'm really looking forward to seeing his new movie, The Giver, which is coming out soon.
Yeah, I was watching the trailer the other day. That looks very good. I can tell just by your conversations how much you're socially conscious and how much you are involved in charities and so forth. Tell us, you were mentioning before we started, the two charities you're most involved with. Give us a quick description of those and how people can get involved.
Yeah, if you look up Wishtoyo, Google that, you'll come upon this organization that has been around for 20 years now, founded by a Chumash ceremonial leader named Mati Wea, who has been a friend of mine for many years. I first met Mati when he was telling stories at the Chumash Center out in the San Fernando Valley here. And I had my daughter there. She was 6 years old at the time. This is many years ago. And I was impressed with him telling the Chumash, the Chumash creation story. And so I invited him to my home, and he told more stories, and I befriended him, and then he created this Wishtoyo organization, and now we built a village that I invite anybody to come to out in Malibu right now. It's built in the way of the ancient Chumash villages. We have 7 acres right on the bluffs there, and if you look at that site, you can see it. And every Sunday, Mati leads us a ceremony for the sun coming down. We also have an environmental outreach trying to preserve the oceans and the land on the coast. And we have some lawyers who take on some of the junk dealers who are pouring bad stuff into the rivers, and people that are drilling offshore, take them on and try to straighten things out there. So it's a good organization. And then the other one is Theater West, where I learned to act as a young man. It's the oldest community theater in Los Angeles. I joined when I was like in my 20s. In fact, the most recent work I did there was my daughter Emily and I wrote a play called Acting the First 6 Lessons, based on a book by Richard Boleslavsky, and written in 1939. And we performed it for a couple of months at Theater West, and Samuel French has now published us. I think they're doing a production of it now in South Bend. And Emily is now a member of Theater West. And Theater West has a very active program in the schools and trying to help kids who are somewhat disadvantaged than others, inviting them to get involved in the theater through Theater West. So those are the two organizations that I concentrate on.
Well, listen, we really appreciate your time today. Good luck on the Emmy Awards this summer. You're on the ballot twice for the two shows we've been talking about. And I've got to say, you know, you're one of those guys for me, kind of like a Gene Hackman or a Michael Caine or a Morgan Freeman or your brother. When I see Beau Bridges' name on a cast list credits, I know at least one performance in the movie is going to be good, if not the whole movie. So I really enjoy your work.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a great experience for me. As I told you earlier, this is a first for me. I've never done this. This new technology is just amazing.
We'll just open the floodgates, and you'll be doing these hangout interviews every day.
Cool. All right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.